On to more pages with Fail-Safe, the Kennedy Curse fused with science fiction, written by me. Susan MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, a few other names. Ready? The gemstone-filled rings he purchased as gifts for Rose assisted in delivering the blow, slicing his face as she screamed for the atrocity that he committed. She demanded to know the cause for his decision without her approval. Joe tried to tell his wife not all are worthy of being saved, and saying that about their own daughter only enraged Rose further. She knew now she had the reason and cause for her to act. Leaving his room, she slammed the broken door shut, sending lingering pieces of shattered glass to the ground. Taking time for herself, her parents sent Rose on a small vacation. Visiting family friends in Kansas, she was able to get away from the city and clear her head to think properly. Rose made sure to express her appreciation and gratitude for the vacation time away. Once the long drive had taken her to the house in the country, the family friends made sure her accommodations were adequate to Rose's specific liking. Thankful of their hospitality, and after eating a snack, she laid down in her bed to nap. Awaking to a cloaked shadow in the room, she did not scream from fear. Rose welcomed the individual and awaited the instructions. Time would allow her to relax initially before wandering throughout the town, usually under the cover of a darkened night sky. During the vacation, Rose chose to meander through a nearby field, and later she found a cemetery. Rose abruptly stopped seeing the initials A.C. and quickly recalled two separate memories from Ireland and her spiritual studies relating to the letters. She slowly walked closer towards the entrance to the Attica Cemetery, passing through the wrought iron and stone barrier. Feeling a calming serenity quickly overcome her senses, she walked around the tombstones, unknowingly, for hours. Almost as if a barrier from external sounds had invisibly blocked, she had not been bothered by any muffled noises outside of the gates. Walking slowly while lightly running her fingers along the graves, she stopped to observe a few details on certain tombs, which happened to catch her attention. The sun fell below the horizon when she came across a grave for a former soldier with the name of 2nd Lieutenant Grigsby buried underneath a tall engraved pillar. Swearing she was able to see the first president of the United States of America next to the grave, the shadowy image briskly and cautiously walking towards the back of the pillar, she noticed a cloak turn the corner of a different tomb with wider features. Calling out and asking if anyone was inside of the cemetery with her, she nervously rubbed her eyes, Thinking she had possibly gone mad with insanity, Rose paused and lowered her head, sighing softly and walking to return to the tomb of Grigsby, to view the inscription and to read the words, listening to the voices of the wind, echoing in the evening sky above the cemetery air. That serenity returned, taken aback and instantly remembering another notation from both spiritual groups in Ireland. She fell to her knees, bowing her head in reverence as 3 tears fell from her left eye and 4 tears fell from her right eye, dripping down slowly upon her soft cheek. On the ground, she noticed a feather before looking upward, interpreting the inscription on one side while she slowly crawled in a clockwise manner to read the rest of the stone. The tears continued to flow. Finishing several rounds, she felt she understood the mission, feeling an odd sensation causing the hair on the back of her neck to stand tall. Rose looked up to the sky. Above her head, she noticed what she thought had been a shooting star, only to be startled. The shadows moved closer to her and muted any illumination from her lantern or the buildings once clearly seen. The cloaked Asian male stated, "The comet soaring will bring only the destruction necessary, and your ritual preparation is ideal on this upcoming Hallows Eve." President Washington added before Rose could respond, "We are here to assist the magic needing to be woven, to assist with the signs arriving properly. With each individual coming forward to speak with her the confirmation of certain rumors, each worked to reasoning her fears." Rose knew at the time was right to set forth the motion to signal to the universe of all details necessary for the one to come from the mists. She quietly prayed for her fears to never manifest, but she knew the signs pointed to other directions, requesting another sign to verify she was going down the correct path. The cloaked male revealed himself from his hood to her, kneeling on one knee while looking knowingly into her eyes. Rose simply nodded. Communicating telepathically, the two conversed. She pleaded with her eyes for the time not to arrive too soon, and the figure placed one hand on her shoulder. She knew both and the immediate family would not know of the suffering to come, causing her to sob uncontrollably, but the relief that will come after. George Washington placed one hand on her shoulder to whisper in her ear, reassuring this one would be the last. After some time passed, Rose wiped the last tears from her cheek and knowingly sighed. Removing a small sewing kit from her pouch, she sat on the dew-covered grass. The shadows danced around and within the flame before transferring to her fingertips as she wove the web of destiny. Voices sung praises to the outermost regions of the universe, while Rose whispered similar chants. At the end of the ritual sewing, a single tear fell from her eyes, sealing the spell. Burying the small token just beneath the roots into the soil, she whimpered, slowly turning away and standing upright, Rose solemnly walked away from that cemetery. Without another word, Rose made her way through the gardens of the large estate and back to her parents' Massachusetts manor. Heavily weighing her options, she contemplated long and hard about her next decision, forgetting to inquire how she managed to travel from the state of Kansas to Massachusetts upon waking in her bed. Rose's mind wandered. Creating the necessary paperwork within her thoughts for the correct time for when her child would be in the highest position of power. Just as she had within the hedge labyrinth, her thoughts overcame her emotions. After getting a drink from the kitchen maids, she weighed the possible options. Rose knew a sign would arrive with the answer she sought, and more importantly, needed. Fury overcame every fiber of Rose's being as her grief consumed her to run into the room which had the piano. Slamming her fingertips across the ivory keys for the last part of the spell work, her fingers danced until they bled. Continuing past the pools of blood and the multiple popped blisters on each of her fingers, Rose pressed on until the world felt her pain. Joe was able to hear every beginning note and quickly fell ill, afraid of what he had done while he walked into the bedroom as he pondered any possible solution to rectify the problem. Passing the piano area and petrified to look in, Joe ran to the master bedroom to hide. Listening to the thunderous sounds echoing upward towards the boards, nightmares entered his dreams. Seeing the possible future, he awoke crying worse than any female in his family, being beaten and raped in a hidden room. Abruptly finishing her magical masterpiece, the woman known as Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy grinned sadistically out the corners of her mouth. Grabbing a nearby towel to clean her bloody, blistered hands, she walked closer to look out to the world. Joe made sure to think of plans for building with special care for his daughter shortly after the nightmarish melody ceased. Hoping to make amends with her, Joe would wait until morning to speak with his wife about his mistake. Unable to see the cloaked male wrapped within the drapes, observing all events, while Joe tried to plan a positive maneuver to try to help the situation more. Smiling from the corner of one side. Chuckling, Rose whispered to herself while looking through the window, "It should not be hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn." Sucking the dried blood beneath one nail could not be reached by the towel, she whispered additionally, "It should be hell hath no fury like a mother's scorn." Though she had been born in 1890, Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy outlived her husband and maniacally laughed at each notification for the deaths within the Kennedy family. Initially greeting the news with a sad response, she remained composed until alone. She successfully created the hidden program within the United States government, only to be revealed in proper time by the one. Proud, she did not need to convince her son with any difficulty. He took advantage of the knowledge cockily, keeping to her prayer to assist easing her mind while Rose took care of her family. and the prayer assisted the upcoming events. Rose Fitzgerald smiled with sadistic glee after each prayer with her rosary and after each reminder of the suffering to come in retribution for their choices. More than 1 century passed of her birth before she would be able to let go on the physical realm and move on into the spirit life. The work had been complete, meaning Rose felt she could finally rest peacefully, knowing she had completed her mission. Though only the initial phases of work had begun, Rose was able to die with tranquility throughout her being. Throughout her life and through the many presidencies, Rose sat by watching the world, praying for change to actually occur, hoping for the best and all of humanity to repair the problems. She knew otherwise, for only the one could put it all together. Looking to implore of the divine to spare the suffering and illuminate the minds to understand, she kept her tears within, as she was constantly disappointed. Making notations in coded messaging, she increased the numerical value to decipher any notes. Knowing she could be called at any moment at the behest of the President of the United States of America, she remained prepared for almost any moment. Able to dress for any occasion within minutes if necessary, the time arrived. During the late 1970s, President Reagan had been in office for a small amount of time and had been briefed of an array of classified intelligence agencies kept out of view, only to emerge from the shadows under extreme duress. The group arrived with urgent notice. Meeting in an underground room without a disclosed location, President Reagan had been greeted by Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy. The doors, oh so closed, after the president entered the room, leaving the two alone to speak in confidence. The two finished their meeting and went on with their individual lives. Decades later in comfort, she felt the time was correct, commenting while dozing off of the beginning of the end having been put into place. She smiled, knowing all of the guilty would soon suffer greatly for all atrocities committed. Rose whispered as she went into a serene sleep, of which that fury would come shortly after her passing away. When the one reached the hidden point in the stars, the final phases would arrive on Earth. Already confined to a wheelchair after a stroke for many years, Rose was ready to leave this plane. Knowing her beloved children would never feel the wrath sent for to come, Rose fell asleep. Her most beloved family was taken care of in all ways she could muster, and more importantly, her daughter Rosemarie was well taken care of. Rectifying the past through the years of behind-the-scenes internal torment, she chuckled to herself before falling asleep for the final time, never to awake from her peaceful dreams when she joked the night before. The cloaked shadow said to have informed the house. Rumors had passed around. Rose had a slight grin on her face when she had been found, and at the time of death, having been pronounced. Rose knew there is a special place in eternity for their pathetic excuses for souls, known as cherubim. Grinning as she knew she made it happen by taking care of business. The cloaked individual and the former president stood at each side, with the Buddha Vista's light filling the room. 10 years later, in 2005, Rose's last living offspring from her womb, Rosemarie, joined the mother of the family in eternal serenity, watching over the upcoming events through the stars. The two ladies enjoyed their reconnection in the outer beyond over the years. I'll post the link to my website and you can go buy my book from my website. That'll link you straight to the right page. Subscribe to my channel and encourage others to do as well. Have a good one.